Welcome, everyone. Hopefully you can see my screen and you can see me and hear me. We are very excited about today's webinar, which is going to focus on Axero Copilot, our new AI functionality that we're just starting to roll out. It's in beta today, and we're going to dive into what it is and why we're so excited about it. Throughout the call, there is a Q&A section of the Zoom application where you can drop questions. We're going to let those accumulate there, and then at the very end, we're going to turn back there to those questions that have been submitted and leave plenty of time for Q&A at the end. So please don't forget your questions as you have them. Just drop them into that Q&A chat, and we'll either address them right as they come up or address them towards the end. Alrighty, let's dive in. So the plan for today, we have about an hour scheduled, but I think the most of what we want to go through will really just be maybe 30 minutes or so. Very quick, just a minute or two about who we are at Axero. I know we have a lot of current customers on the line who know Axero well. We also have prospective customers who are in various stages of evaluating Axero for their needs. So we'll just cover who I am and who we are, what we do, how we help folks. We've got folks from all across the world joining, so appreciate those who are joining at odd time zone from early in the morning to late at night. We'll spend the bulk of the time talking about Axero Copilot. I just have a couple slides that I'll run through, and then really excited to dive right into a live demo and talk a little bit about where Axero Copilot is headed in terms of the product roadmap. And like I said, plenty of time at the end for Q&A. There will be a form you can fill out in terms of if you are interested in speaking with someone from our team about bringing Axero Copilot to your site, or if you're thinking about if you're still evaluating Axero as a prospective customer of ours, adding it to your subscription as well. So who we are. So first of all, I'm Adam. I should have started this at the very start. I'm Adam Millowhite. I'm Axero CEO. I'm here in New York, which is where where Axero is headquartered, but we've got 50 plus employees all over the globe, many of whom are joining as well and are in the chat. So a lot of familiar faces on the call. Axero is well over 200 customers now. This is actually a slightly old slide. So we're growing fast. On any given day, there are millions of users who are using the platform, which is something that we take a lot of pride in and we're very passionate about. Businesses from every size, all the way from just a couple hundred employees up to several 100,000 employees use the platform. It's really scalable and flexible to meet your needs. That's enough about Axero. Let's talk about Copilot. So what is Axero Copilot? Unless you're living under a large rock, you've probably heard of ChatGPT in the last 12 months or so. So ChatGPT is trained on the internet of 2021. Axero Copilot leverages the same GPT technology, but it has access to the content of your intranet today. It is a way to provide all the value, all the benefit of ChatGPT to your team in a private environment that's secure, that's permissioned, and the additional value of that is trained on and has access to the content of your intranet. I think the use case I think of that's just the most different with Copilot on or Copilot off is the search experience, right? If your user today wants to look up information about a particular policy, something they need to know to do their job, right? Today they log in, they go to the search bar, they type in a keyword. Hopefully the content's written in a way that mentions that keyword, it's relevant, so it rises to the top of search results and they're able to find the information they need. But if they're like me, they probably open up the top 5 results, each in a new tab. They skim through each one real fast, trying to figure out which one's relevant. Copilot makes all of that so much easier, so much faster, because it not only does it conduct the search for you, it reads all the content for you. So there's no opening up 5 tabs. It instantly reads all 5 articles or all 5 wikis or whatever it may be, and provides the answer to you, as opposed to you having to search for the answer within the content itself. Some of you have content that's 5, 10, 15 pages long. Even if you find the relevant piece of content, it can still be 5 minutes searching for the answer you're looking for in that piece of content. So we think Axero Copilot speeds all that up quite a bit. It's also conversational, right? So as opposed to a search box where you have to type in a word, this is a colleague, a teammate, a co-pilot that you can interact with just like you would, tapping someone on the shoulder in the hallway and saying, hey, how do I change my direct deposit information? You can go back and forth with it, and you'll see that in the demo in a little bit as well. So as opposed to, again, a search result where you type a search, you see the results, you want to do a new search, you have to go back and type a new search, and there's no linkage between the two. What's really cool about Copilot and the GPT technology is that it allows you to, it knows what information it gave you in prior messages, so it can reference back to that information as you go back and forth with it conversationally. And then really, I think the cherry on top, but really I think why Axero is so perfect for the GPT technology is this last piece, the fact that it's personalized and permissioned. You've already done all the hard work of getting your content into Axero, into your platform, hopefully. So you have all the content there. It's all permissioned, right? If you've set up your spaces correctly and your roles correctly and your personas correctly, you've given everyone access only to the content they need to do their jobs well and not to the content they shouldn't see. So as opposed to ChatGPT, where if you and I both go to ChatGPT today and ask it the same question, we're both very likely to get very similar answers, if not the same answer. With Axero Copilot, it's personalized to the content that you have access to as a user. So if you have access to, let's say, your policies and procedures space, but I don't, and we both log in and we ask it a question about a policy, you'll get the answer you're looking for because you have access to the policies, and I'll get, hey, sorry, we don't have that information. So it won't provide an answer based on content that you as a user don't have permission to see. And I think that's really what is special about Axero Copilot for versus other GPT technologies or chatbots that you might be looking at or using today. All righty, let's keep on moving here. All right, so why use Axero Copilot? I think I explained it a little bit. Hey, it can make searching more effective, more efficient. We've actually now are in the midst of really just week 2 of launching with a subset of our customers who expressed early interest in Copilot. And I just grabbed some quotes that I've heard over the last couple of weeks here at the bottom of the page that I think describe really why customers who are starting to use it are excited about it. There's a customer, I think they may even be on the call right now. They said something along the lines of, we have 500 internal policies and procedures. They've got field employees, frontline employees who need to access that information. Even their most tenured, their A+, their highest performing employees, there's no way you can memorize 500 plus internal policies. They've got them all on the internet. It's searchable. So all they have to do today is log in and say, hey, where's XYZ policy? Where's the check cashing policy or whatever it might be? But that isn't necessarily the most user-friendly experience. They get a lot of feedback about how difficult it is to find information when you need it, how often the policies change. And so it's really hard to stay up to date on the policies and how many policies they are. So imagine if you had a co-pilot, a colleague who you could message and say, hey, I'm working on XYZ today. I need to know what is our policy around Y. And as opposed to doing a search where you have to read through a 50-page document of that policy, Copilot can actually just tell you, here's a summary of the policy. What exactly are you looking to learn more about? Oh, well, I need to know specifically this thing. And as opposed to, again, just giving you the full policy, it will tell you in 1 or 2 sentences exactly the answer to your question. And it can even customize that answer specific to the context that you've given it, the context you've given it. I'll before I go into these other couple examples here, we're using it internally at Axero. And one of the things we use it for is when you submit a customer support case, oftentimes our team is asking Copilot, hey, what's the answer to this customer's question? And our Copilot obviously has access to all of our product documentation, which is over 1,500 pages of wikis that you've all probably been in or seen at some point or another. There's no one employee at Axero who knows every single piece of that documentation. except Axero Copilot. And so when we had a customer submit a question a few weeks ago, and I remember it was, we want to add a custom user profile field to the platform for license plate number. And at first I thought, okay, this is a bit of an odd request. Why would you want to store license plate numbers on someone's user profile? But they explained, we have an office, we have a parking lot. If someone leaves their headlights on, or they're double parked, or they're blocking someone in, we want employees to be able to search the license plate number on the intranet and easily message that person, email them, call them, let them know, hey, your headlights are on. Okay, so it makes sense. And we asked Copilot, we said, hey, how do you add a custom user profile field for license plates? And it gave a beautiful answer, which we could have just copy pasted right to the customer without any modification. But I thought what was really cool about it was a couple things. One, it referenced information from multiple wikis, right? We have a wiki on how to create a user profile field. We have a wiki on the different types of user profile field: text, single line text, multi-line text, numbers, etc. We have a wiki on how to add it to page builder pages, whether it's the edit user profile page builder or the profile page builder that the user sees. And it took all of that information and consolidated it into a single response. So as opposed to our support person having to go and read 4 different articles or 4 different wikis and summarize that, synthesize that themselves, Copilot did it for them. And then I thought was the really cool thing was that because we asked it specifically about license plate numbers, it made suggestions about how to configure that user profile field. Simple things like call it a license plate number, right? Call the profile field license plate number. So in our documentation where it says add a new user profile field, name it whatever you'd like, Copilot read that and said add a new user profile field, name it license plate number. And so it contextualized its response to the question that the user was asking. That's a simple example, but it made suggestions like a single line text might be the best option for this type of user profile fields, right? And that's nowhere in our documentation is it written how to add license plate numbers to user profile fields or the type of user profile field to use for a license plate. But Copilot's reading all the documentation and synthesizing it and coming up a little bit with its own relevance, its own conclusions to bring back to our customer. To me, that was sort of like an aha moment of like, wow, this thing is actually smarter than I think I ever expected it to be, and more impressive than I think I ever expected it to be too. And I think a lot of people have felt that way about ChatGPT, about a lot of what's going on in the AI space lately. We have another customer who's they mentioned to us that they're highly acquisitive. They're always acquiring smaller companies. And with those smaller companies come their employees who get onboarded to their new intranet. And as opposed to a 3-month onboarding process where we sort of slowly roll out information to them, imagine if we could just give them access to a bot that immediately they can ask all of their questions to about being a part of the new organization, and how much that would speed up their onboarding process, not just for new employees that they acquire, but for new employees that they hire as well. And then another customer mentioned, we get the same questions over and over and over again, and it's well documented. The answers would be easy to find if they search for them, or at least they could find the answers if they search for them, maybe not so easy. Nevertheless, they're still calling HR, they're calling finance, they're calling legal to ask the same questions, or IT, over and over and over again. What if we could just take those most frequently asked questions, train Copilot to answer those questions well, and free up all that time, not only of the people having to ask questions and wait for an answer, but the people who have to answer the questions and have to answer the same questions over and over. And what's great is they've already done the hard work. They got the documentation into Axero, into their intranet. So it's not like they have to go and train a model on how to answer these questions. They just have to turn Copilot on, and Copilot immediately has access to all the content on the site. Alrighty, so that's a little bit about why we're excited about Copilot. As you can tell, we're very passionate about it. We're very excited. I think effectiveness in terms of saving time, both for the people asking the questions, the people who are answering the questions, speed to onboarding for new employees, for organizations that are highly acquisitive, who often merge organizations into their organizations. I think we'll benefit from this as well. And just a better user experience. Nobody wants to read through search results. I personally hate it. I'd much rather converse conversationally with someone or something that knows all the information I need to know and can just tell me the answer rather than having to go find the information myself. Push the answer to me. Don't make me pull the answer from the information. I see we have a few questions. Let's see if there's anything in here that might be a good point to answer now. And I promise we'll get to everything either now or at the end. So here's one. Does Copilot find information across different content sources, articles, wikis? The answer there is yes. Copilot has access today to all Axero content types, so wikis, articles, blogs, etc. The only content type it doesn't currently have access to is files. It can access the name of the file, the description of the file, but the body of the file, the text of the file, which you probably know is accessible to our search, isn't accessible to Copilot. But we're going to get to the roadmap in just a little bit. That's something that's on the roadmap and coming hopefully as soon as later this month, but certainly no later than October. There's a question here, what is a wiki? And that's okay. That's probably someone who is exploring our platform. So a wiki, similar to like Wikipedia, or it's just an article, essentially, a place to upload content. The cool thing about wikis is that they're hierarchical. So if you look at our product documentation as an example, we'll have a wiki about page builder. And then beneath that is how to add a page, how to edit a page, how to clone a page. And those are all wikis beneath the parent wiki. So just it's a way to usually use for documentation about a product, about a process, about a knowledge base, and it's one of our most popularly used content types at Axero. There was a question about can Copilot be, how can we fine tune or train Copilot? And we'll get into that a little bit here in a second as well. But essentially, Copilot is specific to your customer site. So just like Axero is, fully customizable, Copilot is also very customizable. The look and feel of it, yes, but also how it answers questions. So you've probably heard of prompt engineering and prompts for these AI bots. Is that we will help you fine tune it over time. What's really cool is Copilot builds a database of all the questions anyone has asked it and all the answers anyone has given it specifically for your customer site, for your site. We will regularly review those questions and answers with you, identify patterns, identify areas where Copilot's giving the right answer, identify areas where it's not giving the right answer, and help you fine tune the prompt, the way that Copilot is set up on your site so that it gives the right answer going forward. Alrighty, I think a lot of these questions will either be clearer or we'll have better context if we dive into a demo. So let's do that now. Give me a second here while I switch screens. Alrighty, so this is a demo site. You probably saw something like this or a site similar to this when you were evaluating Axero or when you were going through implementation. Obviously, your site probably looks a little bit different. It's completely white labeled, branded for your environment. You probably have different templates and widgets that you've decided to use on your homepage. That's no problem. This is just a test site we're going to use for Copilot. So Copilot is down here. Again, fully customizable. So the way it says Axero Copilot up here, you can make it say whatever you'd like. You can change the font, the color, the styling. You don't like our little bot image here, you can use something. We're working with a customer who's named it after their company. So let's just say their company is called, I don't know, I'll make up a name. But anyway, they've given the bot a name that is a nickname for their company. So your users don't have to use the Copilot term if you don't want them to. I've got some questions here that I wanted to show you. So what is the sick leave policy? What is the sick leave policy? I happen to know that we have a piece of documentation on this site that it isn't called the sick leave policy. I think it's called the paid time off policy or time off policy, something like that. So Copilot's thinking it's going to get back to us here with an answer. And hopefully what happens is it finds the time off policy, and it actually will read the piece of the time off policy that's specific to the sick leave policy. And that is what it's done here. So the sick leave policy at our company is as follows. Employees accrue 1 sick day per month up to a maximum of 12 sick days per year. This came from the paid time off policy. this is one thing that's really cool about Copilot that I didn't mention earlier. It will reference the documentation. It will reference the content it's using to inform its response in its response to you. We think that's really important so that you as a user can come in and click and actually validate, oh yeah, that is our actual sick time policy. Make sure that that it's giving the appropriate information and providing you a way to link over to it easily. But I think what's really cool about this, let's just say this paid time off policy was 50 pages, right? Obviously, this one happens to be pretty straightforward. It's, I don't know, call it a page. But let's just say it wasn't. Let's just say it was super complex. It was, a 10-page policy or a 50-page policy. Copilot actually found the piece of the policy that was relevant to the question that I asked it. I didn't ask it, hey, can you point me to our paid time off policy? I asked it specifically about sick leave. And so it answered specifically about sick leave. It didn't tell me about vacation time or floating holidays. And I think that's a really cool element, different than search results, right? Because if I had typed in sick leave here, I probably would have found the paid time off policy, but it then would have to go into the paid time off policy and now find sick leave again, even though I searched for sick leave. Why am I having to do this information twice? Everything below the line here right now is for our development team, but also I think it's interesting to show right now. This is a relevancy score. So from 0 to 100, of all the information it found on the site to inform its response, what was the most relevant? So obviously here, paid time off policy, 90 out of 100, highly relevant. But there are some other things here. There are some discussion topics that people have posted, employees with sick kids, COVID policy, the 401k policy, not particularly relevant, but it did find it. It's not giving me information about that in my response, but that is the information it read in order to inform its response, which I think is pretty interesting. So let's take another question here. I'm just going to refresh the page, get a nice clean slate. I think I have, yeah, here we go. So where can I request business cards? Again, similar idea. We have I know there happens to be a business card form on the site. So hopefully, again, always it's a live demo with an AI product, so you never quite know what's going to happen. But hopefully it points me to that form and I can go in, and it did. Okay, we're in good shape. So you can request business cards by filling out the form, and it gives me a link, find the business request form here. Again, this is just sample content. But what was cool is it found some other things here, like the time off request form. Obviously, it's a form, so it found it, but it isn't using that in its response. Alrighty, let's get into something a little bit more, a little bit different than just finding simple policies and forms. This one is a question we often run into. We often run into, hey, where's that file? Where's the file from the board meeting last month, or the all hands meeting in January, or the quarterly results call, or whatever it might be. So finding information, finding files, it might be buried in a folder somewhere. I know some of you have very, very complex folder structures out there. We have a complex folder structure at Axero, and it happened to find the August 2023 leadership meeting minutes, which is the last month's leadership meeting was August. And if I go into that, I can, get those minutes. So again, it can be helpful for answering questions, but also finding information as well. And then here's where I can show you a little bit about how it's conversational. And let's just take a look here. So here's another question. Ooh, I keep clicking out of it. Here's another question similar to the leadership meeting. So what was Axero's revenue in Q2 of 2023? Before anyone gets too excited, I uploaded content that is fake. I think it's actually Apple's quarterly results, so it's going to say quite large. But it found the Q2 2023 financial results document. So again, nothing particularly interesting here. It is summarizing it for me, like, hey, give me the top line revenue. Okay, it's 21% growth from last year. I didn't ask it what growth was from last year, but it's showing a little bit its creativity, its willingness or desire to be helpful. But I happen to know that in this document we also talk about how many new users were added. So even though it didn't talk about users here, I happen to know that it's mentioned in that content. So I'm going to follow up with it. How many new users were added in Q2 of 2023? And this is where I think it gets pretty interesting, because it's, again, trying to find the right information. Hopefully it comes back to the same piece of content, but it's looking elsewhere in case it doesn't exist in that content. And okay, so according to the Q2 23 financial results, 150,000 new users were added in Q2 23, bringing the total user count to 1.2 million. Okay, great. And then here's where I think it's really special too. Ooh. What was revenue in Q2 23 divided by the total number of users, or revenue per user? And this is where it's accessing information, again, hopefully. Yeah, so it's accessing information it had from its prior responses. We actually know it's not conducting a new search because there's no relevant, whereas we saw the relevant content it was using to inform its response down here, there's no relevant content here. So the only content it's using is the content it's given us above, the answers it's given us above, and it's doing the math for us. So revenue per user, we divide the revenue by the number of users, so 75.6 divided by 1.2, revenue per user is $63. By the way, the revenue per user is not mentioned in the Q2 2023 financial results. So this is using Copilot to do calculations, to synthesize information, to actually explore new information based on the information it does know in a way that wouldn't be possible elsewhere on the site. This number, $63 per user, does not exist anywhere on the site. It is only possible for Copilot to know that by doing the math that it's done here. Again, a pretty simplistic answer, question, revenue per user, but hopefully your mind is going to places like, oh, you know what? We upload our customer list, we upload our product usage information, we upload our, I don't know, hopefully the ideas are, the light bulbs are going off in your head. What if we had a bot that could ingest all that information and just become a conversational way to interact with it? One example I can think of, I know we have private equity customers who they upload all the financial information about their portfolio companies onto their intranets. Well, what if you had a bot that allowed you to interact with all of that information conversationally? Hey, what was the 2023 results for this portfolio company? Or what was, the performance of this branch or this franchise or this store or this, and so on and so on. Hopefully you get the idea. So I think, again, a really cool way to interact with the information on your site using AI. Alrighty, let me take a look at the questions and see what we've got. There was a question here about, is it available for on-premise customers? At this time, it's not. It's only available for cloud-hosted customers. But if you are interested, please, at the end, we're going to share a link. If you are interested, even if you're an on-prem customer, let us know, because that is a direction we can go if there's interest. So please do fill out that form. Can you include external web sources that are authoritative in our industry? So right now, Copilot is only trained on the content of your intranet, or only has access to the content of your intranet and its natural language model. So the natural language model is GPT, and then the content of your intranet. The best practice there would be, if there's something that is an external web source that is authoritative in your industry, I would upload it to the intranet. You can even do so in a private space where not everyone necessarily knows it's there, and we can configure ways to give Copilot access to that information, even though your users are more used to interacting with it externally. But the flip side of that is we've had customers say, hey, I really don't want it answering questions based on external content, because who knows what's out there. So we've restricted it purposefully to just the content that exists, in the context of the intranet. Is Copilot something that can help with the implementation of Axero? That's an interesting question. So the customer success team I know is actually working quite a bit with Copilot on our side. What's cool about Copilot, right, is it knows all the information from our product documentation. So it is a kind of an implementation manager or a technical support engineer on steroids a little bit. So our team is actually using it behind the scenes to empower them, enable them, give them additional tools to inform your implementations, your support tickets, your requests. So in some ways it's already being used, but hey, if you ever have a question, and you can't find the answer, ask your implementation manager, hey, can you ask Copilot this, and let's see if it works. So don't be afraid to bring that up with them. They all have access to it internally at Axero. Oh, can it generate custom CSS code for a site? Yes, it can. So and that's a very common use case for ChatGPT, right? Hey, I've got this HTML. Can you give me CSS overrides to do XYZ, to change the font to blue, to make the picture bigger, to center it right instead of left? So yes, it can handle code. So something really cool, you can copy the HTML from the page you're on, give it to Copilot, and tell Copilot the changes you want to make on the page, and ask for the CSS overrides that you can use to achieve those changes. Same thing for JavaScript. Same thing for our REST APIs. Copilot is really great. GPT is really great on interacting with HTML, with CSS, and with JavaScript. So don't be afraid to use it for that purpose. That's a really great question. We'll be able to search button, text, or navigation item titles. That is another good question. So right now, Copilot has access to anything that is comes back in search results. Page builder pages do come back in search results, but the content of those page builder pages isn't included in the search results. So I would say right now, no. But it's a great question, and certainly something we can consider for the roadmap. If that's something that, let us know why that would be valuable to you, and we'd be happy to discuss. Oh, I love this question. What about conflicting information where there is, you have two articles, one's an old policy, one's the new policy, and they say two different things. So right now, Copilot would struggle to be transparent. The best practice would be only have the latest and greatest on your intranet, archive the old policy. But we know how difficult it is to keep everything up to date, including all the little corners and crevices of your intranet. We are working, one of the things on the roadmap is working on giving Copilot a sense of time, that it should prioritize more recent information in its responses to you than outdated information. So hopefully we have a solution there soon enough. It is pretty good when it finds two different sources. It'll tell you, hey, I found two sources. This says X and this says Y, and it'll give you links to both. So hopefully you as a user are able to figure out, oh, you know what? It's finding a really old discussion topic about X, and then the formal official policy about X. I'm going to trust the policy, not the old discussion topic. Is it smart enough to take information from version history, expired content? To not take information from version history. Yeah, that's correct. So it will only find content that is returned in search results. So expired content or old versions of content won't be, Copilot doesn't have access to and won't pull from that. Someone asks, is our wiki Axero? Yeah, so our product documentation wiki is built on our platform. We drink our own Kool-Aid here, and the product documentation wiki is publicly accessible. So it's a great way to sort of see how Axero uses our tool internally or externally, and take some best practices from there, because it's a well-designed site. I think we got the widget title question answered already. The answer there is not yet, but certainly something that could be considered. Can Copilot integrate with other applications or link out to external applications? I love this question. I feel like I'm saying that for all these questions, but thank you everyone for submitting all these great questions. Yes, we do have a customer who we're working with right now who, for example, stores a lot of their policies on an external platform, a compliance policy platform. And what we're doing is giving Copilot access to that information. And when it returns a response, the link it returns is actually going to link to that third-party platform. So it won't link to content on Axero. So even though the answer is based on content, the answer is based on that external content, and it's going to direct the user to that external content. We can talk a little bit more technically about how we are achieving that for that customer, but yes, it is possible. Does Copilot only appear on the homepage? No, it appears on all pages. So if you go, let's say to an article, here it is right here. Can users see their own history of questions? Not yet, but that is something we're talking about. Hey, is this something that would be useful? from a administrative perspective, you'll be able to see the complete history. We can provide you exports of all the questions, all the answers, and who asked them, when they asked them, things like that. But the individual user can't see the history just yet. What does it look like when Copilot can't find an answer? It'll just say, sorry, I couldn't find an answer. And you can actually customize what it says when it can't find an answer. So you can say, tell us to fine tune Copilot to say, hey, when you can't find an answer, say, I'm sorry, we can't find an answer. Why don't you try reaching out to your manager or checking, here. So that can be customized. Company procedures to connect someone via IVR to a department. I'm not sure I understand that question. We'll come back to it, or ask it again, maybe with a little bit more descriptive information, so I can help on that one. Can Copilot assist us with gathering analytical information? That's an interesting question. So a couple things that come to mind there. One is it will be such a wealth of information to see what your users are asking it and what Copilot is answering with, because it's similar to our search analytics. It's the best view into why your users are coming to the platform. Oftentimes, I think you'll find it may not be what you think it is. And we've had examples of that. I can think of dozens where, why you purchased the platform is for the employee handbook and for policies and procedures and files, but why people come to the platform might be a completely different answer sometimes. And so I think the insights we'll be able to share with you and look at with you as a result of collecting all this, conversational information. It's sort of like a listening device into the pulse of your employee, your user base. So I think that'll be interesting. And where we go from there, it could be interesting as well. Yeah, so Copilot can read documentation of the wiki, even if the wikis are in spaces. So if you connect files from external sources, like via our Box or SharePoint or Dropbox or Drive integrations, we're working on the file, giving Copilot access to the body of files right now. So today it can access the file name, the file description, and very soon it'll be able to access the content of the file itself, the text content of the file itself. Is there a limit to how many people on the platform will have access to Copilot? There's no limit. It is a per user model, so very similar to our intranet model. You'll purchase a number of user licenses that you want to access to Copilot, and you can restrict Copilot to certain roles on the intranet. So you can say, hey, right now we have a lot of our customers who are rolling it out in beta right now. They're saying, hey, let's just roll it out with 1,000 users to start. And it'll be everyone with this role, the Copilot test role, and they add users to that role that they want to be involved. And then they can gradually scale it up over time. So you'll have some control over, you'll be able to permission it, who can even access Copilot, who will see that little chatbot image on the bottom of the page. All right, I feel like there's just more questions coming than I can keep up with, but this is great. Does Copilot reference expired content? No, it shouldn't. If the content doesn't appear in search results, Copilot won't reference it. Yeah, I love this question. Can administrators leverage Copilot to clean up old data? I think that is, transparently, I'm thinking of a conversation we had late last night because we're using it at Axero, where someone from our team asked it, what's the holiday calendar for this year? And Copilot answered with the holiday calendar from last year. And so it prompted us to say, well, why do we need the holiday calendar from 2022 on our intranet? Let's expire that. Why hasn't it already been expired? So it just naturally surfaces ways to improve the content management of your platform in ways that you may not have realized without Copilot, without people asking it those questions. How good is it at distinguishing between two completely different uses of a single term? We interact with foundations and also use an unrelated software called Foundation and can have content related to both things. That's a great question. So this is where some of the fine tuning is going to be helpful. We can actually prompt it to say, Copilot, just so you know, there are two things on this intranet called Foundation. There's capital F Foundation, which is software we use for XYZ. And there's, lowercase f foundations. These are organizations we work with as customers or partners or whatever it might be. So we can that's the idea, that we regularly review this Q&A data with you to see when it's getting answers wrong. Like, hey, it's actually referencing the software called Foundation, even though the question was about foundations, the organizational term. So that's what we're here to help you with, and do that fine tuning with you and for you over time. Can it access calendars? So it does have access to events. So you can say, again, anything that comes back in search results, it'll have access to. Yeah, and give you a link to that event. You might say, when's the next payroll event, or when's the next payroll date. We haven't tested this so much, but it can access events and should be able to answer questions about upcoming events or past events that appear in search results. Is there an issue log you can access that can tell you what questions weren't able to be answered? Not right now. Well, we'll see a full log of responses, so we'll be able to see all the responses where Copilot said, sorry, I don't have the answer to that question. So I guess the answer to that question is yes. We'll be able to filter down to those questions, both the questions where it thought it was right and it wasn't, and the questions where it didn't have the answer, so that you can look at the question that was being asked and see, is there content where it should have had the answer, or did the content not exist on the internet? PDF, text on PDFs, yes. So that's what's coming later this month, is being able to read the text content of files themselves. That will include PDFs, but also Microsoft Office files like Word docs, PowerPoint docs, Excel documents. I will say, in our testing, it is much more accurate with Word documents and PowerPoint documents than it is with PDFs, right? Because if you've ever tried to copy and paste text out of a PDF into an email or something like that, it always gets jumbled, it always gets mixed up. That's what Copilot is reading, is trying to read that jumbled, mixed up PDF. So oftentimes, if it's a well-formatted PDF that, not a scanned image or something with a big watermark over it, things like that, it'll be fine. But if you have the document in Word format, for example, or another text format, it'll do much better with it. Can Copilot connect you to the person needed to answer a question? Yes. This is actually something we're working on figuring out how best to implement right now. So, users are one type of, let's call them content, that are returned in search results. And if I ask it, hey, which user has a specialty in, 401k policies, making this up. If that user mentioned on their profile that 401k policy, they should be returned in search results, and Copilot should be able to direct you towards those users. We haven't quite tested that and fully explored it yet. It's not a use case that's come up with the customers who are currently using it, but I have heard that question before, so I do expect it's something we explore in the future. All righty, well, that was 27 questions answered, and there's one or two more here, but why don't we come back to keep submitting the questions, because even if we don't get to them here live, we'll get answers to you either in the chat or after the event. And let's come back to just a couple other thoughts here. Some that I think we've already touched on a little bit, but some that we haven't. So a few words of caution, right? It's an AI technology. If you're using, or if you've used any other AI technologies and face limitations, Copilot has many of the same limitations. We can't guarantee the accuracy, completeness, or up-to-date nature of the information provided. It's really only as good as the content of your site. If you have a bunch of outdated content or inaccurate content on your site, Copilot doesn't know the difference, unless, of course, you've archived it or expired it or things like that, or deleted it. So the better the content on your site, the better the answers Copilot will give. But even then, you probably have heard of AI hallucinations. Copilot is a little bit creative, and which is a good thing. You don't want to stifle creativity, because, for example, that example I gave with license plate information, that was Copilot being a little bit creative. Nowhere in Axero did we talk about naming a field license plate number, but it took the creative liberty to make the answer more relevant, more contextualized to the question that was asked. So you don't want to limit creativity entirely, but finding that right balance of creativity and the factual nature of answers is important, and that's something we're going to help you with over time. And it might be different per customer, per use case. if you're primarily using Copilot to access policies as a financial institution, well, you probably want it only to be highly, highly accurate and not take much creative liberty at all. If you're using it to generate ideas or write content or something that requires it to be a bit more creative, then obviously that's something we want it to do and want to enable it to do. Copilot, GPT both have safety restrictions in place. We can't guarantee that users will not attempt to misuse the bot or find ways to get it to say inappropriate things, get around those safety restrictions. I think it's very similar to ChatGPT in that sense. The beauty of Copilot is that it doesn't require an additional contract with another vendor or even with Axero. It is all governed by our existing contract. So, Axero SOC 2 Type 2, we take security very seriously at Axero. Data privacy, data protection will continue to have the same standards for Copilot as we do for the other areas of or the other functionality of the site. And I don't think this will apply to too many of you, but just for the folks who do have extranets or public-facing pages on the site, Copilot is only available to logged-in users. So you will have to log in to use Copilot. Now, for 99% of you, that's probably what your users are doing already. But for those of you that do have a public-facing component, Copilot won't be exposed publicly. All righty, roadmap. And I know we've got about 10 minutes here. I see there's 4 or 5 more questions waiting for us. So roadmap, and then I promise we'll close it out with questions and then let everyone get on with their days. Axero Copilot roadmap. So 2 new features that I've mentioned. I think even in the time that it took to put together this webinar, these things are really, really not even that future on the roadmap. They are facing us right in the, staring us right in the face for September into October. So logging all user queries and Copilot responses. We've already talked about this. This is something we actually is live today. So roadmap of yesterday, I should say. So you'll have complete access to message history. We are asking that our early customers who participate in Copilot meet with us regularly, either on a weekly basis or bi-weekly basis, so that we can hear your feedback, show you that data, go through that data with you, and identify ways to improve the content and fine-tune Copilot itself. And then, like I said, Copilot getting access to files, the text content of files like documents, PowerPoint files, PDFs to inform its responses. So those are the 2 new things that are coming in the next, I would say, 3 to 6 weeks. We'll have both of these complete, certainly by mid-October. And I think that's it from what we wanted to go through. So I see we have just a few open questions here, but if you have additional questions, squeeze them in now. We've got a few more minutes here, and then we'll let everyone get on their way. How does it handle things that allowed in videos? Yeah, I can't look through videos, but what we do have a lot of folks doing is uploading text transcripts as files of the video. So if you're doing a Zoom recording or a Vimeo video, oftentimes you can just download the text transcript as a .txt file, upload that to the intranet, and we can help you configure it so that when Copilot references the information in that text file, which is the transcript of the video, it links the user back to the video rather than the text file. There are ways to configure that as well. So I think that's a really great answer, a really great use case, right? Like, let's say you've got the CEO roundtable or the quarterly call, recording, upload the transcript, and give people a way to ask questions to, I don't want to watch the full 1-hour meeting, synthesize the whole thing for me in 3 bullet points type question. Well, that's really powerful. Hey, was anything mentioned in the meeting about why? About the new PTO policy or the new ERP we're using. Can Copilot identify which users are experiencing role changes? No, it doesn't have access to that. How do we sign up? I love that question. That's coming right here in a minute. We're going to give you a form to fill out in just a second if you're interested in learning more, both if you're a current customer interested in learning more or a prospective customer interested in learning more. And then can Copilot identify users experiencing name changes? No, it cannot. It doesn't have access to historical information. So it only has access to the current information when you ask it the question. So it won't know what the user's name used to be. I think that is every question answered. Over 35 questions answered, 33 questions answered. I feel good about that. Thank you everyone for actively engaging here and participating in the webinar in the first place. We do really appreciate it, and we're really excited about this. Oh, I see a few others in the chat. Let me just see. Oh, great. This is from Alex, which is a perfect segue to this page. So if you register for this webinar, shortly after the webinar, you'll get a recording of the webinar. In that, we'll also include a copy of this presentation, so you have that as well. If you're interested in Copilot for your organization, if you're a current customer, there's a link in the chat right now. It's also going to be linked in the presentation that you receive. Please, if you know, most of you are in touch with your customer success team anyways, you can feel free to reach out, feel free to submit a support ticket. There's 1,000 ways to get in touch with us. You let us know, but fill out this form, let us know you're interested, and we will schedule time one-on-one to discuss what that can look like for your organization. If you're new to Axero and you are not yet connected with someone from our sales team, please reach out. Just go to axerosolutions.com and click book a demo. That'll be the easiest way. You can select time right on someone's calendar, either for later today or this week or next week, whenever it's convenient for you. We'd love to talk with you. We'd love to hear from you and talk about Axero and Copilot. And if you are currently in touch with us and evaluating Axero as a potential platform for your organization, just let your sales team member know, and they can include or talk to you about what it would take to include Copilot in your license, either now or down the road. So hopefully you are in touch with a sales team member and you can reach out to them via email. So lots of different ways to get in touch. If you're not sure, just shoot me a note. It's adam@axerosolutions.com. I will gladly help point you in the right direction or chat with you one-on-one myself, and would love to hear about the light bulbs that are going off for you and your organization in terms of how you might think about using this. And with that, how did I do on time? 5 minutes to spare. I feel that feels good. As soon as you leave this webinar, you will get a prompt to give us feedback. Please just take the 10-15 seconds to fill that out. There's also a spot to suggest any additional topics you'd like us to cover in webinars. So we're trying to do a webinar every couple of months or so. So do let us know if there's something you'd be interested in learning more about down the road. We are always looking for ideas. Thank you everyone for taking the time to listen in, to register and learn about Copilot, learn more about Axero. It's great seeing so many folks, customers, prospective customers all across the globe. I love it. Hopefully this was a useful, a good use of your time, and have a great rest of the day, everyone, and hope to talk soon.